Hi guys, you're welcome to Halogenius Ideas. I'm excited to be bringing this tutorial to you. Today we are going to be doing an introduction to Flexbox, the essentials you're supposed to know about Flexbox. Flexbox is a very useful tool for front-end developers and for laying out your elements, for positioning and for controlling elements inside a particular container. It is very useful. So that is what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So I'm going to be starting with a bit of definition for what Flexbox is. Flexbox, short for Flexible Block Box Layout, is a CSS module designed to make layout creation easier by aligning, distributing, and organizing elements in a container. It is best particularly for responsive design. Responsive design is you trying to adapt your website to all screens basically. If you load the website on desktop, it looks nice. If you load it on mobile, it looks nice. If you load it on tablet, it looks nice as well. That is what responsive design is. And Flexbox is one of those tools that can help you to achieve a very great front end user experience. So, like I said, it is best for responsive design and dynamic layout. It also eliminates the need for floats and tricky positioning. Flexbox handles a lot of headache for you when it comes to front end development. And trust me, this tutorial, if you stick with it till the end, you will get yourself acquitted with Flexbox for sure. So, without wasting much of our time, let us get into the tutorial proper. Before we start doing the practical, I have my HTML file here which we are going to be working with. But before going into that, let us do a bit of explaining using something visual. So key terms that you are going to be needing, things you need to understand before you be able to use Flexbox comfortably. So the first one is the flex container. The flex container is the parent element with the display of flex, which controls the layout of the child element. So for example, in this case, you can see this. This is the container over here. This red rectangle is what I'm assuming is the container. Then this is the flex item. The flex item. Okay. The direct children of the flex container, these are the elements you control with Flexbox. These are the elements you control with the Flexbox. This is the flex container, this is the flex item. For example, let's create an HTML structure and call this introduction to Flexbox. And let me create my style tag. I'm going to be doing inline styling in this tutorial. The first thing I want to do is to kill all the margin and the padding 0, then box sizing border box. Okay, so come here, create the div dot flex container. So this is going to be the flex container. Then to create the flex items now, div dot flex item, then you multiply this by 4. Okay, let me just use 4. So 1 2 3 then 4. So if you save this and I load this using my live server, so you can see 1 2 3 and 4 over here. Let me zoom in. I've not applied any styling, so you can see 1 2 3 and 4. If I should come to my developer console and I try to inspect this element, you can see I have my flex container and I have this flex items, so we are good to go. This is the flex container. If you come here, this red rectangle is the flex container, which is what I have over here, the flex container. Then we have the flex item. Okay, I have only an item over here, but if you come back here, you see I have 4 of them. So flex item 1, item 2, item 3, then item 4. You can use whatever class name or ID or whatsoever, but if you want to style these flex items together, obviously you would have to use a class. But for the flex container, if it is just one flex container you have in the web page, you can go with an ID, but I prefer to go with a class. So just do what suits your development setup. So this is the flex container, like I said, and this is the flex items, and you can have multiple items inside the flex container. Okay, it doesn't have to be one. You can have 3 4 20, whatever number is what you need, you can have it in your flex container. So That is it. Then the last thing that I would like to us to know before we move on to the practical proper is our flex direction. Okay, so we have the main axis, and by default, the main axis is the horizontal axis from left to right. Okay, so the flex direction in this case is going to be row from left to right. That will be the arrangement. Now, as we have the flex axis, we also have the cross axis. Okay, the cross axis is perpendicular to the flex axis. The cross axis is perpendicular to the flex axis. So please take note. So by default, your flex direction is going to be row from left to the right. Okay, horizontal from left to right. While your cross axis is going to be from top to bottom, like vertically. So take note of that. The flex direction, it sets the direction of the items in the container basically. So let's do a bit of styling for our flex container. So for my flex item, let me start with my flex item. I can start with the flex container as well. Dot flex container. So for this flex container, I'll give it a width of just 800 pixels. I'll give it a height of maybe, let me give it a height of maybe 500 pixels. Then background color of, let me use this. Then I think I'm good with that for now. Then I have my flex items. So dot flex item. So for my flex item, I have a width of 200 and a height of 200. Height of 200. Actually, I can do a width of 140. Okay, then height of 200. Okay, let me just do 150. 150. And please don't forget your pixels, very important. Pixels. Okay, so for the text that is inside, I'm going to be giving it font weight of, maybe I'm talking about this text over here, just so you know what I'm doing. This text over here. So font weight of bold, font size of maybe 2 rem. Then um, I think I'm good with that. So if I should save this, okay, background color of aquamarine. Then background color, what can I use for this one? Should I use I don't know why I'm looking for color. Just go and do the tutorial and get off. So save this, and okay, so I was all zoomed out initially. Okay, so you can see that my elements are spanning outside of the container because it can't contain everything. So what I would do for now, let me comment out one of my flex items so that everything, exactly, so you can see I have just 1, 2, and 3 now. Let me make the color of the flex item to be white. So color white. Okay, save this, and yeah, we are getting somewhere. So for this outer container as well, I can even increase this to 900. But in addition to that, I want to give it a margin of 0 auto. So it will be in the center of my screen. Very good. So now I think we are good to go. Now we are good to go. I told you initially that the moment you, for this flex container, for this to be a flex container, okay, you need to set the display to flex. For this to be a flex container, you need to set the display to flex. How can you do that? Come back here. This is the flex container over here. For it to be a flex container, I have to set the display to flex. How can I do that? Just display, then flex, and that is it. Save this, come back to the design. Now you can see I told you that by default the flex direction is from the left to the right. That is the row, the default flex direction. This is because this is your main axis. By default, this is your main axis. This is your cross axis, and it is your main axis that decides your flex direction. So since this is row, then the main axis is retained like this. But if you set your flex direction to column, then this is going to be your main axis, and this is going to be your cross axis. Okay, like I said, they are perpendicular to each other. So that is that about that. But you can see that all the flex items 1, 2, and 3, they are just beside one another. Let me come back here. Let me inspect each flex item. You can see that I have this flex item, then we have another flex item over here. You can see the three of them. So if I want to put a bit of spacing between the flex items, two ways I can decide to do this using the flex container or just adding a margin left and right to the flex items. But I think in this case I would want to do it using the flex container. How can you achieve that? Just give it a gap. So you can give it a gap of maybe 1.5 rem or something. 1.1 rem on most devices. 1 rem should be 16 pixels, and zero point 0.5 that would be 8. 16 plus 8, that's 24. Save this and come back here. You can see it is giving it that gap now. You can see the gap. You can see the gap. So moving on, by default the flex direction, like I told us, is row. That's the default. But come back here and let us change the flex direction. Let's leave it as row first. If I save this, you can see the flex direction is retained because that's the default. Now what if I want to do row reverse? Basically it will reverse the arrangement on the row. Initially I was having 1, 2, 3. Now I'm having 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that is the flex direction for row reverse. Then another one is basically for this row reverse, I'm changing the order of arrangement from right to left. Okay, from right to left, basically in this direction. That is what I'm doing, changing it from right to left. But I can change this flex direction to column. If I change this to column, basically what I'm doing here is that I'm making this the main axis now. So this becomes the cross axis. This is the main axis. This becomes the cross axis. So come back here. You can see this is the main axis now. Let me take this to the right. So you can see this becomes the main axis, then this becomes the cross axis from left to right. Cross axis, then the main axis. The main axis. So please take note of that. So we also have column reverse. Column reverse is basically going to reverse the order in the column. Okay, so column reverse. Save this, and you can see now I'm having 3, 2, 1. Okay, now I'm having 3, 2, 1. And one thing you would note is that if I should, for example, remove this gap, this gap is basically what controls the spacing between the flex items. You can see that spacing I've reduced, and you can see I have more space over here. So please take note of the gap. Now another property that I would want to show us is the justify content property, which aligns items along the main axis. Don't forget, the main axis by default is the row, then we have the cross axis. So I'm going to be leaving this as row for now. I'm going to be leaving this as the default row for now. I don't have to put it. I might just as well just comment it out, and it will still work perfectly because this is the default. So let's just have that. Now for the justify content, let us start with justify content. So flex start. We have so many values for justify content. So basically, we are justifying the justify content is going to decide the arrangement of elements on the main axis. So by default, we are going to be having I think it's flex start. I think so. So if I save this, flex start, that is the default. Then another one that we have is center. Apart from flex start, we have center. Save this. You can see everything now comes to the center. Everything now comes to the center. We also have the space around, space between, and space evenly, and everything will be explained now. So space around, save this. You can see the space around. Okay, we also have space evenly. The space around basically is going to be giving the space between the elements, then it's going to be having some at the edges. But in the case of space evenly, all the spaces at the edges, at the before the element, the first element after the last element, and all the spaces between will be even if we are using space evenly. So come back here, you can see all the spaces are now equal. Then we have space between. Come back here, you can see the space between now. You're going to be using this space between a lot. I use it a lot, so just take note of that, the space between. Then another one, I don't know, do we have a flex end for this? That should be a flex end. So you can see it aligns everything to the end, the flex end. So that is that about that. But for now, I think I will leave this as center, just for the sake of our tutorial. So you can see it is justifying everything to the center. The next thing that we are going to be talking about is align items. Items alignment, which aligns items along the cross axis. If you remember the cross axis, so by default the flex direction is row, and if you check what we are doing over here, we commented these ones out, so obviously the flex direction will be row. Even if we didn't comment it out, it will still be row. Okay, so come back here, this along this axis. Now that is where the align items decides the arrangement of the elements. So now what options do we have? We have the stretch, align items, stretch. So the default for the align items is stretch. Okay, if you come here, it is looking as though you're not getting any changes, but if you should come here to inspect, if you check this, you can see that I gave it a height of 150 pixels. If I should remove the height, you can see that it is stretching throughout the height of the container. Okay, if I should remove the height, it is stretching throughout the height of the container. That is your the align item stretch. It stretches the element to the height of the container, but I have controlled the height already over here. That is the reason it is looking as though you are not getting any changes on the screen. So that is the display stretch, align items stretch. Then we have the flex start, the flex end, and the center. So the flex start will align everything to the top in our case, because of our flex direction is row. So obviously the cross axis is from top to bottom. So the flex start for this one will be to the top. Okay, the flex start, this is going to be aligned to the top. Okay, then if you come here and you do flex end, it will align everything to the bottom. We come back here, if I have center for example, save this and come back here, you can see now everything is aligned to the center. So that about that, about the flex item. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about in this tutorial is the flex wrap. The flex wrap. So let me make this thing more obvious. I'm going to be giving it a gap of let me say 2 rem, so that then I commented this one out initially. Let me have 2 more boxes, copy, then paste. So this is going to be box 5 and box 6. Save this. So if I should come back, you can see the way everything is. You can see the way everything is like this. Now let me try to add one more. Copy. 7. Save this and come back here. You can see it is basically it is struggling to fit everything in. You can see the way it is struggling to fit everything in. So if I should come here and set the flex wrap to wrap, for example, save, and I come back here, you can see the way it wrapped all the items. So it will look at what it can contain from the width, then it will wrap the remaining items to the next line. This is flex wrap basically. Then we have the other one, no wrap. If I save this and I come back here, you can see what no wrap will do. This is what no wrap will do. But if you set the flex wrap to wrap, then you save this, you can see what we are getting. And you can see we have another option there, the wrap reverse. The wrap reverse. Come back here. You can see the wrap reverse now. So that is how the wrap works. So before we go, there is one other thing I want to show you how you can achieve with Flexbox. You can see the way these numbers. One, let me return this back to wrap. So save this. Um, Come back here. Okay, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 7. So you can see all these numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 7. Okay, all these numbers, I don't like the way they are aligned to the top left part of their container. How can we align it to the center using Flexbox? How can we align it to the center using Flexbox? What we want to do over here is to ensure that the this number is aligned to the center horizontally and aligned to the center vertically. Basically, on the, let me add another page. So if I should pick my red pen, so the red, so basically I have it's a square. Okay, what color did I use for? Okay, so I have green over here. So then I have the number over here. Okay, initially I'm having the number here. This is where I'm having the number, but now I want to bring the number to the center. So basically, on the main axis and on the cross axis, I want this number to be aligned to the center. Okay, to be aligned on the main axis and on the cross axis to the center. And I believe it's something that we have done over here. So what I would do is that I will set this flex item to a flex box as well. So I will just come here, do display flex. Now justify content center, then align the items center, and that is it. And that is it. If I should save this and I go back to this, you can see all the numbers are now aligned to the center of their boxes. So if you have any element that you want to create a center alignment for, you can easily do it with Flexbox. Just create a parent container, display it as assign it to display flex, justify content center, align item center, and provided it's just one element that you have in the box, the element will conveniently come to the center. If you have more than one element, then you know how to use Flexbox to tweak it to bring it to the center or to any desired position of your choice. So basically that is how you achieve the center alignment on the cross axis and on the main axis as well. So in conclusion, we spoke about flex direction, which is how the elements are set. Basically, the flex direction I said is the it sets the direction of the items in the container. We spoke about the justify content, the align items, and the flex wrap as well. And I believe that with constant practice, this will become a part of you. It will be something you can use to create any layout at all that you want. Nobody brought this thing from nowhere. Everything we learnt it here. So everything is hard till the day you learn it. Just give it your time, and you'll be an expert in this. So I'm going to be creating another tutorial where I'm going to be doing a lot of boxing. It will be a full-blown tutorial on Flexbox. Hit the subscribe button so that when the more tutorials like this drop, and when the Flexbox tutorial drops, you'll be notified, and you'll be able to benefit from it as well. So thank you very much for staying till the end. I remain your host, Chris, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.